Frontier is incredible at making new content for Planet Zoo. Frontier does absolutely everything they can to give us the most exquisite pieces, the most beautiful animals ever. But I feel like their blueprints can leave a lot to be desired. Today, I had the fun idea of taking a look at one of Frontier's blueprints and going through and trying to improve it. Now, this is something that I really haven't dabbled with before, so this is going to be a very much new experiment for all of you guys. But I really do encourage you guys to try it out for yourselves alongside me. I really encourage you guys to give it a whirl on your own terms and maybe try and build something beautiful off of what Frontier has provided for us. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so we're going to start off with, yes, it is the South American Small Temple. We're just going to get started by getting rid of all of these little decorations on the side. I am not a big fan of these. In fact, these are probably my biggest complaint with this entire set. A lot of the times when you are building for themed areas, you would want to add those small details in for yourself. Now that we have a blank canvas, I do want to go in here and actually swap out every single one of these pieces. Frontier used the normal stone over here, the normal temple support beams, that there are flexi-color versions of each and every piece. So without further ado, we're just gonna jump right in here and get this all cleaned up. Now with all the pieces properly replaced, I've already taken the liberty to do a little something extra over here for all of you. One of the problems with the South America building set is that a lot of the flexi color pieces don't work well together. This is unfortunate, but I kind of found a way around it. All of these pieces have been split up into those that you can recolor on your own. So I have the little trim up there, I have the two decoration pieces over here. Unfortunately, these aren't able to be flexi-colored together, and I also have the basic stone down here. And what this is going to help us do is actually find that perfect kind of grayish color that we're seeking out, and I think we're going to go around like a nice kind of bluish gray. And the best part about this is that we could actually do multiple colors over here, which will actually give us a little bit more detail than ever before. So if we want to do a little bit of red up here, just retaining a little bit more color, we can certainly do that. So that is exactly what I am doing right now. I'm simply coloring over the same kind of flexi color values from these other pieces. Every single time you use a flexi color value, it will appear in your recent flexi color values, and that is something that we're going to be doing a lot of over here. So we're just going to be simply changing these out, and yeah, there we go. We have it looking nice and detailed now. Now the next piece of detail I would like to work on will concern the Europe pack. Ideally, what I would have loved to have done for this entire series is only use pieces from the respective DLCs, but the European pack gives us something that no other pack has, and these are decals. These are going to be your bread and butter when it comes to doing all these tiny little details over here. So in case if you do have a building that is, you know, it's seen its wear and tear, you could easily add in a lot of mossy detail to the bottom, and it'll help it kind of really retain a lot more of that natural kind of look. And that is exactly what we're going to be doing right now. And what I always like to do, I like to drag my cursor, constantly clicking. I'm sure you could hear it right here. Just trying to find that little perfect balance in between the green and the muted color that will give this a nice realistic look. So we're just going to constantly flick between here. And don't forget to use both flexi color values over here. It gives a really awesome shading, and it gives it a really nice highlight. You can see just how much those greens are popping now. So I'm going to decorate this in a little bit of moss, and I'll take you guys back when I am finished. Now that we've sufficiently dirtied up our building a little bit, we're going to go even further. One of my favorite things about these decals is that if you color match it just right, you can bring in a whole new level of detail into your builds in the form of a little bit more of a dilapidated texture. So that is exactly what we're going to be doing right here. I'm going to place two pieces over here very quickly, and I'm going to separate these from the rest of the group. This is going to allow us to work on an entirely new, what do you call it, group? Yes, group. And then we're going to essentially go throughout here and start to add these small little highlights of detail throughout that really help to bring a build out even more and really help it shine in terms of all the detail. You can see me start to do a little bit of that right now. So we're going to be doing this for a little bit, and I'll see you guys once we're done. With enough detail, we can finally get to start to work on some very intricate stuff. This is stuff that I always love to do in my speed builds. This is stuff that I love to do in my regular builds. So we're just gonna jump right in here and find our Aquatic Rocks. These guys have been such saviors of pieces ever since they've first been included in Planet Zoo, and there is obviously a reason why. You can just see how much detail they can add to this build just with minimal effort. And what I'm doing over here, I am color matching, so unfortunately one of the things in Planet Zoo that happens is the fact that some pieces don't exactly show off the right color. Some have textures that are a certain color that require a little bit more extra finagling once you actually do start to work on getting them to be flexi color in order to match them with the build over here. However, we kind of did that perfectly. So what I'm going to do, and because I didn't do this before, I am simply going to copy over a lot of our kind of decals over here. I used a whole bunch of different kinds, but primarily I just used a light gray and a dark gray. I forgot to even copy the dark gray all around, and I used the mossy ones over there. And I'm just keeping everything nice and organized over here so that we could easily flexi color it later down the line. But essentially what's going to happen throughout here, I'm simply going to go throughout this entire building and start to add these tiny little details that really help to make the build pop a lot more. Especially with temple designs kind of like this, you are guaranteed to really get these like dilapidated kind of looking things. Whether it be like cracks in the stone and stuff like that. So as long as we kind of make our way throughout this entire building and make sure that we take these into account, no matter where they are, I usually see these whenever I do look at my reference pictures. It's on the sides of buildings, and it's usually around corners and edges, because those are kind of like the first ones to get hit. Those are the kind of first ones to really start to crack off. So that's exactly what we're going to try and emulate throughout here. And what I think I'm going to do right after I place this last one is go in with a few larger ones as well. Utilizing both sizes can really help make a build stand out. I'm just making sure that we're not getting any on the inside over there, because that would be pretty bad. So just making sure that we take this all into account. I think that's a little bit too big for right there, but definitely down below and in the sides is where I think these stone pieces would really help to fit. So after we place those, we're ready to move on to our next little step. And that step is going to be foliage. This one's going to be super fun. So I'm going to go right in here and look up tropical, because that's exactly what we're doing over here. We're making a tropical building. One of my favorite pieces as of late has been the Bromeliads. These guys are super versatile, and they're super common in kind of tropical areas. So what I'm going to do is find a nice little edge where the align to surface has it go on an angle. This is one of my favorite tricks ever, and unfortunately it's not working. So what I'm actually going to do is place this rock over here because it has a lot of nice edges like that, and once it hits the angle that I want, I'm just going to click V, and that's going to disable align to surface. So now you can see it's not edging itself against like anything else now. So what I'm going to do is place these in these most rocky areas, because that is usually the places where Bromeliads would be able to grow out of. That's usually where the Bromeliads would be able to stick their roots into and be able to capture rainwater. Now, what I really love in Planet Zoo is dense foliage, and for that we're going to look up grass. Not just any grass, however, we're going to be looking for periwinkle leaves. What I'm simply going to do is put on random rotation and kind of dot these throughout here, and kind of create this nice edge to this blueprint. It's going to really help us really find our footing when it comes to like this entire build. And what I'm simply going to do is just group all these together, and now I'm going to work inside the group. Always working inside the group is the best thing you can do, because it helps you stay organized in the long run. Say for example, if you want this color to be a lot lighter, let's just say you want it to be white for some reason, you could easily change that and it affects the entire build, and it's super easy like that. All the good builders usually build in groups, and it really does help speed up the building process. Now that we've placed our periwinkle grass, we're going to go in with one of my new favorite pieces, and that is going to be the Yorkshire Grass. Obviously, since it starts with Y, it's going to be down below. And it's just a really awesome cover grass for builds like this. It really helps it feel like it's a lot more natural. It has that kind of weedy look that I love to get in some of my zoos and like my unpopulated areas. So that's going to help out a lot right over there. And one of my favorite things to do as well is even include some eel grass. I know that this says it's aquatic, but it's a really awesome piece if you're trying to get a lot of grass cover. It's a really exceptional piece when it comes to that kind of stuff. So we're just going to dot a little bit all around here. And another little trick that I have throughout here is to use the Triordia grass tips. Not the entire Triordia grass, because that looks like it's specifically for desert. But if you use a lot more of the smaller tips, especially using the single one, so you could get these nice intricate kind of looking kind of weeds and stuff like that, you can really pull off a really, really beautiful look in the end. It's going to be so awesome when it all comes together, and it really helps to make a build stand out. Now we're almost done, my friends. We are about to finish the blueprint, but we still have a lot of details that I really want to get done. So if we're going to look up moss, we get a whole lot of different pieces, and we're going to be using a lot of them. So up here, usually since this is flat, you would collect a lot of rainwater. When it comes to building, you always need to follow logic if you're trying to build logically. I know, it sounds very, very obvious, but making sure that you take into account all those little details, it's really going to help you improve your builds in the end. So we're just going to go over with a few layers of that basic moss, and then we're going to counter it with a whole lot of these rocky moss pieces. Granted, it's going to stick out the roof a little bit, but I always think that gives it just a little bit more charm that you aren't able to get with just flat pieces. So we're going to place a few of these all throughout. I like to use the small ones especially for getting these small, hard to reach areas and creating these nice little patches of lighter moss as well. So after we do that a little bit, we're actually going to go back to our surface decals. And we're actually going to go over here and place a few of these guys down. However, I will split these out from the group, and I will go over here and change out their color just a little bit to help match that bright moss that we have going on up here. And I do have random rotation on, and that's going to help us create these nice dynamic looks and make sure that we don't really have any repeating patterns going on. Go over all the edges and make sure that we take into account all these tiny little details. And once we're done, we could place this one right over here. I'm simply going to place that piece right there. And now we are all done with those moss pieces. And what's best about this, if we're not feeling that color, we could always go in here and kind of change it out for something a little bit brighter, which I think does help. In addition to that, we're also going to go back down here to our periwinkles, and we're going to see just if we can make this stick out just a little bit more. What my favorite thing about the periwinkles are is that you get these nice kind of dynamic, beautiful edges when it comes to this, and it really helps give your build a lot more gravity, and it helps it feel like it's living. It feels like it's a living organism, which, let's be honest, it really is. We're also going to go over here back to our grass, and we're going to go find our small batches of Yorkshire Grass. These are really going to help us bring out a little bit more detail where we're not really able to get it all too much, but it really goes such a long way in terms of creating this beautiful dynamic look. We are done here, my friends. Now, I already took the liberty of taking this old blueprint back over here, and look how far we have come. We have really taken this build and made it a lot more versatile and made it a lot more useful for all of your zoos, all of your South American sections. This build is now on the workshop, so I really suggest you guys go check it out, maybe dissect it yourself and see all the techniques that we used, maybe even change around the colors to fit your own zoos. But at the end of the day, I do want to thank you guys so much for watching. This was an incredibly fun video to put together, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun playing around with me today. So thank you guys so much. I can't wait to see you all in the next episode. Take care and have the most, oh, my dog's saying goodbye too, and have the most wonderful of wonderful days. Bye-bye now.